have come for this kind of session. So today we have something called the Startup Buzz in CII. So it's one of those sessions that we have here. So we're going to be talking today about demystifying finance. And we have someone very super awesome with us. We have Mr. Robin sir here. So I'll just give a brief about sir's background. So Robin sir, at the heart of it, he is a CA, he's a chartered accountant. However, he's right now the chairman at Nucleon Research Private Limited, and it's a global clinical research company. And he's been at the helm as a leader in multiple companies. He's been a part of ArcelorMittal, he's been part of SR, and he's been a part of multiple companies, and that gives him a great perspective. So sir, welcome to the Startup Buzz, Robin sir. Sir, you're on mute. So for all of us out there in the audience, when I spoke to Robin, sir, he said that this has to be a dialogue. It cannot be like a person giving a conversation. So for all of you out there who are listening to this, please feel free to post your questions. We'll take as it goes. So we're not going to wait till the session gets over in the last 15 minutes to take your questions. But the whole session is for you. I have a couple of questions that I would want to get some answers. So I am going to be putting those across Robin sir. And meanwhile, as I get more questions from you, I will share those with sir as well. So Robin sir, one of the things that if we start from the beginning, right? So what is a startup? According to you, what would be the definition of a startup that in your perspective, and we can take it from there, sir.
Hello, everyone. We are discussing startup, and the startup, not only startup ecosystem, but also demystify the finance bit of startups. The biggest problem when we talk about startup is, what is a startup? And that's a question which Suraj has asked me, what the hell is a startup? The common belief is startup is, of course, it's a new company, it just starts, and it has to be technology oriented. And unless it's a tech, it's not a startup. That's not true. Everything is a startup. Any new business is a startup. If you want to start a restaurant today, it's a startup. You want to start a pan-berry shop, a Coca-Cola, Pepsi serving shop, it's a startup. You have a technology-oriented shop, of course it's a startup. So the definition, the government of India has given a definition for startups. That definition, I'll tell you first, what is it that they want us to do? What is a startup for them? And how it is perhaps important or useful to fall within the definition. But I must tell you that even if you have a new business, whether it falls within the definition of startup as per Government of India or not, you are still a startup. So the problems of startup, lack of money, finding sources of money will continue to be there. The big question is, or the big picture is, the Government of India is saying, as per them, a startup is a company which is not more than 10 years old. That means even if you're 8 or 9 years old, you could still be a startup. Your turnover should not exceed 100 crores. Therefore, if you're a large company, you are no longer a startup. Assuming on the third year you cross 100 crores, you cross the threshold of startup, you no longer belong to startup. And more importantly, a startup is a company, not a company. Startup is a business. It need not be a company, by the way. Startup is a business which has innovation as its core, and a business which can scale up in the future. It need not be technology oriented. What is important is it should be backed by innovation. And the fourth aspect is it should either be a limited or private limited company or a limited liability partnership. If you are sole proprietorship, you can't be considered as a startup for Government of India. Now, if you are a business, not a company, business, which deals with innovation, and loosely speaking, whenever we talk about innovation, we feel, technology is an innovation, app-related business is an innovation, AI is an innovation. Of course, they are innovation, but not necessarily so. You may try to explain, and I will come to a little later, that a business which does not have technology can still be innovation. For instance, let me give you a very rustic example. You want to start a business which will iron clothes. Cloth ironing, not even cloth washing, cloth iron. In India, cloth ironing is not a big deal because we get people at a very low cost to iron your clothes. But if you're abroad, Western world, there are nobody who will you will be able to iron your clothes. You have to do it yourself. Then what happens? In the Western world, you will find clothes, shirts, which are iron-free clothes being sold so that you don't have to iron. You wash it and it's as good as an iron. So ironing is a big thing. It could be some parts of India where ironing is a big thing. For instance, if you're in Mumbai, and assuming for a moment you live in Cuff Parade, ironing is a big thing. It is not easy to get your clothes ironed. Now, so you want to start an ironing business. Now, that's no innovation. You will say, what can we do? You can innovate in iron business, provided you innovate in saying that I'll put my clothes in a machine and it will come out ironed. By the way, there are those equipments available, which obviously can be improved. Now, assuming for a moment you come out with an equipment which iron clothes, it's innovation. Therefore, in my view, even if it's ironing business, ironing of clothes business, it could be innovation and fall within the definition of startup as per Government of India. Provided less than 10 years old, the turnover, of course, is less than 100 crores, and you have a private limited or public limited company or a limited liability partnership, not a sole proprietorship. So that's just Government of India. But Government of India defines it or not, if you are in the business, if you're starting a business, even if it's a restaurant business or ironing business, which may or may not have technology or innovation, you are still a startup. Now, the advantage of getting into the definition of Government of India, which you could strive to, the Government of India from time to time helps in funding, because we are today talking about finance. And that's our basic theme today is money, 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 money. Startup and money. That's what we are going to talk about today, mostly. So government does come up with schemes and guarantees that if a startup comes to a funding institution like bank, please look at them positively. A good source of money is SIDBI, Small Industrial Bank of India. I will come to it later, of course. But if you go to a SIDBI and if you say, I am a startup as per Government of India's definition, they will look at you positively. They will say, oh, okay, very good. Let me examine your project. The second is, there is another advantage. If you are a startup as per Government of India definition, for the first 10 years of operation, any 3 years of 10 years, you will not have to pay income tax. You are tax-free. So normally first 4-5 years, you don't make money. Last 6-7 years, you make money. So Government of India is assuming the first 7 years, you don't make enough money. So it's fine. But the 8th and 9th and 10th year, if you make money, which hopefully we will, and if you were a so-called startup, you don't have to pay corporate tax. You are tax exempt. So that's another advantage. If you fall within the definition of startup, I'm still in the definition. What does a startup mean? And if you fall within the definition, which I just told you, innovation, new company, less than 100 crores, you're a private limited company, try to get yourself registered under DPIIT, Department of Industry and Investment Technology. If you do under DPIIT, and if you get yourself registered, that DPIIT piece of paper, if you go now to a bank, they will look at you a little better, saying that, okay, you have come as a DPIIT registered. That means they don't have to reinvent their wheel and try to see, okay, are you a startup as per definition? So DPIIT registration means they have already vetted you. You are registered as per Government of India scheme. You can therefore get money, funding, whatever is required. And that's the advantage, that if you are a startup under Government of India regulation and get yourself DPIIT registered, it is better in a way that you might get advantage or preference in getting funding from various sources, including banking system.
Perfect, sir. So you spoke about innovation being at the core and the definition around startups, and as you also said, as today's session is all about finance. So one of the next things that I had in my mind was so there are different, so there are businesses, there are startups, and there are multiple. You don't have there are tech and non-tech and all these aspects. So can you quantify like three stages of financing? Because there are some of us who need funding at the or the finance at the beginning. We get it from different things, and then in certain parts. So how do you define or quantify the stages of financing, or at a macro level, or what are your thoughts around that in terms of finance?
There are, if you look at Google or Google Auntie, as it is called, Google Auntie will say pre-seed finance, seed finance, Series A finance, Series B, C, D finance. Then they will say exit finance. I think it's all hogwash. Essentially, it's the beginning funding, middle funding, and when you have become matured funding. Before I come to funding, what are the stages of funding? I want to explain to you what are the sources of funding. Today, we are all talking about money and money pertaining to startups. There are only two sources of funding in the world. There is no third source. Source number one is equity, which is owner's money. First funding is equity, and second source of funding is debt, which is loans. There is no third source. If anybody can invent the third source, he or she will get the Nobel Prize of Economics. Chances are that looks to be quite distant. So therefore, equity. Again, at a very macro level, for every 100 rupees of equity, you can get 200 rupees of debt. That means if you get equity of 100, you can get 200 rupees of debt. So you can bring together 300 rupees together. If you get 1 crore of equity, get 2 crores of debt, 3 crore paisa aa gaya aapka samne. This is the broad mathematics. So whenever we talk about stages of startup, presumably they always talk about stages of funding. I mean, at what stage, who is going to give you money? So obviously the first stage is that when you just got an idea. You got an idea, you're trying to prove it. If you have a manufacturing idea, you will first, let's say you have you have an idea of which you are wanting to manufacture a writing pen, which can last lifelong. That means theoretically it is feasible. Lifelong pen. Of course, I will get bored if I get a lifelong pen. I wish the pen doesn't last. But assuming for a moment you want to do that, first what you have to do, you have to carry out, somebody must know that yes, it works. That's called proof of concept. Before proof of concept, you have to actually make an ideation, a sample, a prototype. So when you are making a prototype, a pen which lasts lifelong, nobody knows people will buy. We don't know. Suraj may feel, lifelong pen doesn't work. Robin feels, wow, lifelong pen. If I buy one pen, whole life I will be worth. I don't have to buy the second and third and the fourth pen. It can cut both ways. But first, can a lifelong pen be manufactured? So I have to make a prototype. And when you are making prototype, you need money. So technically, that time when you need money, and if you go to someone for money, it is called a pre-seed money. Means you are not even seeded, you are trying to make your business doesn't know whether it will run or not. So you have gone to somebody. Whom do you go to? First is your own money, whatever money you have in your pocket. Then you go to your parents. You are young, so hopefully your parents will give you some money. Then you go to your spouse, partner, and friends, relatives. perhaps relatives first, friends later, or whatever, permutation, combination can carry on. They believe in you. They believe that, yes, he's a great guy. He's technically qualified. Maybe he'll be able to manufacture. So he gives a faith in you and puts in some money. That's a 10 lakhs. Pre-seed. Now you make a prototype. Having made the prototype, now you have to put it in the market to see whether it lasts. So that's called proof of concept. Is anyone interested to buy something lifelong? Now, I know I have given an example, the lifelong. How do you know that it will last lifelong? Um, there are methods by which, if you put it in a chamber, hot chamber, in this, and if this ink does not dry, that means it is lasting long, long, long. That's how they take that. That's how they test food products, how long a food product lasts. Sometimes you will have an expiry period, 3 months, 1 month, 6 months. Do you think they'll wait for 6 months, 1 year? No, they manufacture, put it in an oven under certain temperature and conditions and pressure, and they figure out how long will this food product last. Similarly, we will have to do a proof of concept of this pen. Give and take a little bit here and there. Now, for proof of concept, again, I need money. I have to hire someone. I have to get some pens done. I have to put it for maybe 1 month at least, hopefully 2 months. That proof of concept, when you need little bit more money, 10 lakhs, you made the prototype. Second, you need another 20 lakhs to make the proof of concept. First money of 10 lakh was called pre-seed. You didn't have a product. You wanted to make a product. Then when you have a product, you are putting it to the market, not market, trying to say whether it works. It's called seed capital, pre-seed, seed. So this is the first life of a business. Now, the first life of business, you have a product and the proof of concept is stated. It can be stated, yeah, it is not drying. The ink is not drying, looks to be lifelong. Yeah, it looks good. It looks good. It is writing after 1 month. I put it in an oven in a climatic condition and it's still writing. Looks to be lifelong. Looks to be. Proof of concept done. Now I have to manufacture more pens. I have to manufacture maybe 10 lakh pens. I need more money. Now that's the time you go to, this is a good question. Whom do you go to? I told you, there are two types of money, equity and debt. A person who is giving you equity normally is not looking for giving him or her something for mortgage or hypothecation. That means a person who's giving equity will still not say, oh, what is the mortgage you are giving? Are you giving your house on mortgage? If you don't pay back my money, no. Then it is not, it is equity. Equity is the one who is giving you on your faith, on the faith that yes, lifelong pen works. And I'm willing to take a bet. And this bet, person who is betting on your company of this concept of a lifelong pen is called the seed, it's called the series money. And series A money means the first people who has given you the first money to test your product in the market. That's called the series A. Series A product is ready. Proof of concept is ready. Maybe you have started selling also a little bit. The series A people will like to see whether, yes, is some sales taken place? 1,000 pens have been sold. Let me see. And can there be a feedback from these 1,000 pen buyers? The series A money comes. That means the company is formed or the business is formed. Now it's taking off. The first source of money comes in. And the moment the first source of money comes in, it will be called as series A. Then you need more money. You have already got 10 lakh pen, but now you need a factory because it's selling well. You need to scale up. You need more money. You need a land. You need to put up a shed. You need to actually hire a shed, maybe plant and machinery you need to buy. You need now more money. So you need more series capital, series B, series D, C, D, so on and so forth. Technically, it can go up to Z. Up to series G, H, I have heard already. J, I think I've also heard. So it has gone into A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J. I don't think at least I've heard beyond that, but that's another matter. If possible, and if you guys are interested, I will tell you why not B, C, E, D up to Z, and I will tell you that if possible. But for the time being, let us assume that you need some more money and you go for series B, series C. At this juncture, These are all equity contributor. They are not debt. All are equity contributor. They are not taking anything on mortgage. You asset still belongs to you. The factory still belongs to you. And they have given money to construct your business. So what is an equity contributor? They are becoming share owners. They are becoming owners of your company. Let us assume for a moment that, again, maybe I'm uttering a technical word. Somebody says, haha, this lifelong pen company can be worth 10 crores. So if anyone give you 1 crore equity, that means he or she is buying 10% of your company. So if your company is worth 10 crores, somebody gives you 1 crore, he's valuing the company at 10%. So he has taken 10% of the company, valuing the company at 10 crores. Assuming for a moment, you can value the company at 100 crore, and if that person gives you only 1 crore, he gets 1% of the company. So at early stages, the value of the company will be less, and more money you take as equity, he or she will take a larger chunk of your business's ownership. If your business is valued at 10 crore, new company, therefore value at 10 crore, you want 1 crore, that contributor of equity will ask for 10% of your business. As your company grows, the company is worth 100 crore, and if somebody gives you 1 crore, you will give up only 1% of the company. So later, more the company grows, the company value keeps growing, and for the same sum of money, you give lesser and lesser percentages away. So now the company is growing. Stage one, seed money, pre-seed and seed. Stage two is the company is growing, which is then you come series A, B, C, D. Theoretically, let's say after 6 years or 7 years, the company has made money. Then what you say, now that my company has made money, I have already done 100 crore of business. It is best I now make this a public limited company, or I sell this company to somebody else, let's say Mahindras or Tatas or Birlas, or I merge with a big company, let's say Unilever, Pepsi, I merge with the company. Which means as an entrepreneur, as a startup entrepreneur, you are exiting the business. You want to say, I have run the business for 7, 8 years, I made money, I want to create another new business, I want to exit it. Not necessarily, you need not exit at all. You can be there in perpetuity. So if you go to Google, you will see there is an exit clause mentioned, exit money. I feel most of the time this doesn't work because most of us are entrepreneurial bug, which whom I know Anuj has an entrepreneurial bug. He would perhaps not exit an organization. I'm making money, why not live with it? I have learned the business, I know how it is. After 8, 9, 10, 15, 20 years, I keep running the business and making big. Let's say Mr. Birla, who has started the business, never exited. He continues with the business and runs the business for life. Tata's runs the business for life. So, well, one day they were definitely startup, isn't it? Everything has started somewhere. It's 0 to 1. So to cut the long story short, to answer the question, essentially there are 3 stages of life in startups. The starting, where you make the proof of concept, then you keep growing, taking money, and the last one, you can either continue in perpetuity or you may like to exit. Please understand, so far in this ball game, I did not talk about debt. I only talked about equity. So to close this subject, and all those who are non-finance people who would be watching this video or hearing this call or attending this webinar, as you go in your journey, and take this example of lifetime pen manufacturing, you would have put up a factory. Now, I told you for every 1 rupee of equity, you can take 2 rupee of debt. Assuming for a moment, so far you have taken 30 lakhs of equity, 10 lakh pre-seed, 20 lakhs seed, 30 lakhs. Maybe in series A, you've taken a crore, hypothetical example, maybe crore and 20 lakhs. So you now have 1.5 crore equity given. So if you have 1.5 crore equity, you can theoretically raise 3 crores of debt. Now you have a machinery. You have a plant, you can then offer that plant and machinery as a mortgage or as a hypothecation, and then take another 3 crores of debt. That means you have 1.5 crore of equity, 3 crore of debt by offering your factory as a as a mortgage or an equity as an hypothecation mortgage in this particular case. You have 4.5 crores of money to continue your journey in this business. Whether you will take debt or not is a question which you will have to answer, because debt comes with some price. You have to pay interest, you have to pay the principal sum. And of course, I can answer these questions. What is debt is more expensive or equity is more expensive? That's a little different. But in this journey of the various stages of startup, broadly, there are 3 stages, broadly, and there are 2 ways of funding, equity and debt. This is the long and short of this question.
Perfect. Thanks, sir. So I think I found the ratio or the the relationship between equity and debt to be very interesting. In context of how you can map or how you can get a broader perspective, that's very nice. So we have already started getting questions, but I would recommend the others who are listening, so for you to maximize the energy or the knowledge of Robin sir, if you ask more questions and the more technical or if you have specific things, it would be very nice. So, sir, one of the things that I want to now go across, as you quantified, there is a beginning and there is a middle and there is an end, and you work around with your debt and equity. So, one of the core things is the financial metrics, right? So, we have one question around unit economics and the financial metrics. However, I wanted to first jump upon the base that when you're looking at financial metrics and there are so many ratios and so many things happening in this chaos when the founders are trying to run their businesses, in the initial stage, in the middle, so different life journey when you're in the middle and the end. So which metric or how many metric, should a founder look at the 3 stages, beginning, middle, and later?
It's a billion-dollar question, because most entrepreneurs looks at this metrics differently. Most investors looks at it differently. How is the business performing is often a debatable issue. How else would you know and figure out that a company which has 6,000 crore of turnover is incurring 8,000 crore of loss? And there are classical cases, as I'm talking to you, there are so many companies who are doing that. And yet they're getting funding. If you are a businessman, the most important metrics is profit. There is no other figure which is more important than profit if you're an entrepreneur. Let's say you're an employee, you are a salaried employee. What's your metrics? Salary. Higher the salary you get, better it is. That's your metrics. For you, that's your profit. Salary is your profit. So you are always looking for higher salary. You change your jobs for another salary, change your promotion, you want a promotion because of hard salary. Why should it be different for one entrepreneur? Many entrepreneurs looks at their business differently. And hopefully, by this end of this session, many of you may get some ideas. And I do know many of you would be, who are participating in this video or this webinar, are already entrepreneurs, already startup entrepreneurs. Unless you have been in startup, why will you watch this? Many of you would be looking at the business a little differently. The first thing you must look at, whatever I'm doing, will I be able to make profit? Earlier you make profit, better it is. The second matrix, and I will come to again conclusion, not exactly matrix, but second thought process could be that I will run this business for 3 years or 4 years, and I will sell the business to somebody else. So a lot of startup entrepreneurs build businesses to sell it. Now they have this mindset of exiting. What can you sell? You can only sell if it is worthwhile. Who will buy something which is worthless? So if you want to sell something, you have to make your business worthwhile. In order to make a business worthwhile, would you be able to sell if you have a lot of turnover, sales, but no profit? Some of you will say, yes, of course, there are examples like that which existed. Companies who are not making profit, for instance, let's say Zomato, worth about $14 billion when it went public. It was not making profits, but it got billions of dollars as valuation. So Zomato owners could have actually sold that time this company at $14-15 billion, not making profit. But the company or the person who would have bought Zomato at that time, they would have bought what? For them, what was the matrix? Matrix was a sales turnover. Therefore, profit need not be. Matrix was a sales turnover. But in my view, that was not the matrix. Matrices at that point of time for Zomato was a data bank, data of all the consumers, the housewives who buys food from restaurants every night. That was the data. So whoever was wanted to buy the company was buying data, was buying consumer data, which is not possible for you to gather. It will take years for you to get this gather. Which consumer will give you data that I would like to buy products from restaurant? That also, I only buy khichdi and not buy soda, dosa. Some you also will know who orders chicken kebab. Somebody will not. Who above sabji? Somebody will not. Zomato would have the data. So for them, the matrix, we would have thought the matrix is sales revenue. Actually, the matrix was customer data, customer preference, customer data. Ultimately, whoever wants this customer data wants to sell products to this customer and make profit. There is no business on earth. There cannot be if it is not focused on profit. So to answer the question in one sentence is the most important matrix is profit. One sentence only. If I may have to say a second sentence, then there is another word, and I know I'm now getting into little finance jargon. It's called profitability. There is something called profit. There is another something called word called profitability. Profitability is, again, loosely speaking, profit over sales value. That means for every 100 rupees of sales, how much profit do you make? Some can make only 1 rupee profit of 100. Some companies can make 30 rupees profit of 100. For instance, let's say, loosely speaking, let's say startup called Nykaa. It's a beauty product startup. Its profitability, that means profit on sales. What is profit is also $1 million question. But the profit on sales on beauty products is much higher than non-beauty product, let's say Zomato. Because on a beauty product profit, you have to then incur advertisement costs. Whereas Zomato doesn't incur so much advertisement cost because Zomato's cost is discount given to the customers as well as to the restaurant people. So their advertisement is much less. Maybe I'm complicating, happy to answer question. So there is one more matrix, profitability, profit on sales. Higher this number, better. If you ask me what is the thumb rule, if you make profit before tax, before paying your corporate tax, of about between 10 to 15%, it's a good number. I know many of you are entrepreneurs, so you will understand the word called EBITDA, which is earning before interest, tax, and depreciation. Before charging interest and depreciation, this number, if EBITDA number is 20 or 25%, is a very good number. And profit after tax to sales of 5% is a very good number. If you have to summarize, an EBITDA number of 20-25% is good. A profit before tax of about 10 to 15% is good. And profit after tax, 5%, 5 to 7% is good. So if you have to target some numbers, try to target these numbers. And if you are, you will normally see your business is valued well. People are looking at your business well. You are earning cash, and chances are that you will be able to grow long term.
Awesome, sir. So you spoke about like the profit and in context to the numbers where you should map it or you should try to reach it so that you are very lucrative for the for the investors if you are able to position yourself in this manner. However, we have got one very interesting question from the audience, which is a little bit related to this. Like, so this is the end result that you want to reach in context to this much profit percentage or profitability in this spectrum of the percentage that you quantified. However, the question is, how important is it for founders to understand the startup unit economics? Because once you have an understanding of the economics, you would reach there. So how important is it? And what could be the strategies to optimize them, because we all might be having different numbers, we might be observing them, might not be observing them, or at least at the balance sheet time we would be doing it. But the importance of understanding unit economics and how can we optimize the numbers with what strategies?
As an entrepreneur, be it startup or otherwise, cash is the king. You have to remember one aspect. Let's say you can earn profit. Let's assume for a moment that I have a pencil in front of me so I can see that you are wanting to make a pencil which doesn't break. It doesn't need to be sharpened. Lifelong pen jaisa, lifelong pencil. Okay. Now, assuming for a moment you have a pencil which perhaps is breaking, that means the technology is still not working, but you want to sell. You sell. If you want to sell a pencil, I will buy a pencil, I need a pencil. But because it is not working, I may not pay you on time. That means you have sold pencils, but the customer is not paying you because customer is saying, you told me it's lifelong pencil, but it's breaking, so I will not pay you. So you keep on selling, but I don't pay you. You don't get money. What's the point? And if you don't get cash back, how do you manufacture more pencils? How would you pay your salaries, wages, electricity, rental? You can't pay. So therefore, the customer must pay you on time. Similarly, when you manufactured the pencil, you must have bought the wood from someone else. So if you bought the wood from someone else, try to buy on credit. That means you buy the wood, manufacture the pencil, sell it to the customer. Customer pays you, pay back your vendor, the wood vendor or wood supplier. Which means you have to focus on cash cycle. Many of us who are technocrats, who are not finance guys, feel that as long as my product is doing well, everybody is saying very good, I'm doing great. No, you're not doing great. You will only do great provided your cash is coming back fast. Are you generating enough cash? It is possible that you know how to manufacture pencils, but for whatever reason your customer is not paying back, or you are selling to the wrong customer. You should sell to a big wholesaler who will pay the pencil price back, but you are not selling to a wholesaler, you are selling to roadside retailers, maybe at a higher profit, and roadside retailer is running away, they are not paying you. That's a poor sales. Cash is not coming. I'm giving very broad stack example because this is what happens, I'm quite sure, in real life, be it a multi-billion-dollar company or a 10 lakh, 5 lakh rupees company. Cash is the king. So if you are an entrepreneur, you are a startup entrepreneur, finance is what we are talking about. Cash being on the king, two things you must remember. Just two things. No rocket science. First, you must have enough cash to start your business, to run the business for 1 year on a loss. If you are an entrepreneur, there is no entrepreneurship in the world which will start making profit on day one. You could be the most brilliant IIT manager, engineer, IIF, doesn't matter. Customer does not care. It takes time to sell your concept. It is called in simple term, 1 year's cash burn must be in your pocket. 1 year's cash burn. That means some people say 18 months. I think loosely 1 year should be good enough. If your proof of concept is there, that means yes, it works. You must have 1 year cash in your pocket. One, first matrix. Second matrix is your cash must come back very fast. You must see, is my cash coming back? Cash turnover ratios, your customers are paying on time, you are able to pay your vendors little later, and you are not holding too much of inventory. So normally, ballpark numbers, your customer should be pay between 30 to 45 days. You must not hold more than 15 to 30 days of inventory, and you must be able to buy on credit for at least 30 days of your products. Okay, to summarize, I know many of you are non-finance guys. Your customer outstanding should not be exceeding 45 days, between 30 and 45 days. Ask your accountant, is my outstanding less than 45 days? If they say yes, you are doing well. Your inventory should not be more than 30 days. Ask your accountant, is my inventory 30 days? If he says yes, less than 30 days, you are doing well. When you are buying creditors, which is called creditors, vendors, am I getting 30 days credit? If your accountant says yes, 30 days credit, you are doing well. This will solve your cash flow problem, which is cash is the king. To summarize again, cash is the single most important matrix. Profit, of course, is the matrix, no question. But making profit without cash would not work. So you must have 1 year's cash burn in your pocket. As you know, 7 out of 10 startups fail. And most important reason why startups fail, because the startup entrepreneurs are brilliant. They understand their technology, but they don't understand money, finance. So they feel from day one, I will be able to sell my products. Doesn't work. 1 year loss, you must assume. You must have that money in your pocket. Two, cash is the king. See, the cash is coming back fast. These two, if you focus on, chances are that it will be on the right track.
Perfect, sir. So I think cash is king. That's the clear thing that we are getting to feel or getting perspective. Now we got one more question from the audience, so I'm going to take that question as well. Got a couple of them as well. So people, please feel free to add more questions, all of you guys. And so this question is coming in the context of the fundraising for startups is now not like India level or example top. So it's like a global thing. So you're trying to raise funds, you could be raising funds from Japan or Singapore or Dubai, and with Saudi also now trying to put a lot of influence in terms of adding, and then and then there are a lot of things happening. But however, and there are a lot of macro trends as well with the war and a lot of these things happening. So the question is, how do market trends and economic conditions, how do they influence startup financing strategies? And what advice do you have for founders navigating these factors with the external, these influences? So what strategies the founders could use when, while navigating these things?
Um, to start with equity funding, because getting debt to start with, debt will only come if you are able to mortgage or hypothecate an asset, and you are a startup, you don't have an asset. So don't think of debt. I will go to a bank, start getting money. That's many entrepreneurs make a mistake. That they say, I will go to a bank, give them a project, but they didn't say anything, they don't just come back. Because they don't say anything because you don't have an asset. But how will the bank give you a loan? So don't run after loan initially. If you are in India, whatever I'm saying, 3-4 points need not necessarily hold true for every one of us. So there'll be a mix and match. Everything is a mix and match. Of course, the dialogue need not end today. I'm happy to be with you as we go along in this journey later on also. All of you are hearing this on CII, so feel free to raise questions. Happy to answer, clarify later on, because in the 60 minutes, nothing can be completed in life. The second one is, if you are a startup as per Government of India definition, get yourself registered under DPIIT. It's very simple. Very simple. If that happens, the Government of India through SIDBI and on some other banking channels, they would be able to give you a 20 lakh seed capital and top it up with another 30 lakhs of seed capital. And almost, and of course, this is capital, it is equity, it is not debt. So you should be able to get 50 lakhs, more or less, if you're a DPIIT registered startup. Third, third, don't start a startup just because you think I know the technology well. Most of you are, most of you have, I have realized that most startup are engineers, startup entrepreneurs, most of you are engineers. And because you are engineer, you are good at something. Let's say you're good at motors, good at electronics, good in making an app. Just because you are good at something doesn't mean you should start the business. First, figure out, is there a market need? Is there a customer need for that product? Reverse kar lena. What is required by the customer? Can I make it? So, can you make it through your knowledge? So, hunt the market for what is the customer looking for. If you go to Holland, in the Nordic islands, Holland, Scandinavian countries, on the roadside, there are almost every 10 shop is a French fries shop. They are selling French fries. I am not too sure whether you have picked up when you went to the Europe. And French fries, what they do, the difference are they are frying the French fries hot and crisp in front of you. And the differentiation is the sauce they give. The sauce, there will be some 30, 40, 50 varieties of sauce with the French fries. People normally will queue up, normally around 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 4 to 5 p.m., 6 p.m. People, there'll be a long queue in front of French fry shop to buy the French fries. And I think Indians like potatoes. French fries are potatoes. But India does not have French fries, barring going to McDonald's, and which will only give one ketchup and no variety of sauce. There is hardly any French fry option in India. I feel as a person, individual customer, I feel there is a market need. There is a customer need. Now, if the customer needs, now this is just an example for this little webinar, but there is a need. There is a large gap of French fries. You can also make air fried French fries for whoever are health conscious. You need not have deep fried. You will say, no, French fry is very bad. People will not buy. No, hot, and you are going to sell hot. So make it French fries on air fry. Very good for health. Then make it your mayonnaise, which is diabetic proof mayonnaise without sugar. Again, for healthy. Any options are available, but India doesn't have this option. So there seems to be a customer option. If you are good in cooking, assuming for a moment, or your wife is, your partner is, adapt the customer need to your technology and start the business, not the reverse way. That no, French fries, no. I know how to make vada pav. So I will start making vada pav. But vada pav, there are so many vada pav walas. Even on the road, there are vada pav walas. Just because you know vada pavs well, doesn't mean there is a customer need. But what customer needs, if you can adapt yourself, then there is a business opportunity. So as an entrepreneur, please direct yourself. Is there a customer need? Is there your product having an USP, unique selling proposition? If you don't have an USP, you have no right to be in that business. Think of another example. Uber came with a fantastic option of taxi on your mobile. Wonderful idea. Just imagine, we used to hail taxi, taxi wouldn't stop, taxi wouldn't go. Suddenly there's a mobile, very nice. Uber was very successful. Suddenly Ola came and copied Uber. We are running out of time, so we will quickly close this and get into more questions. Ola, very nice, over. Now Uber did well. Technically, Uber did well. At least sales is doing well. They are not making profit as yet. And I don't know still why. All the business model is very good, but that is okay. Ola also did very well. Sales is very good. But moment other companies started copying, like Meru and so on and so forth, Taxi for sure, Meru, nobody could even do some sales. They couldn't have top line, forget about bottom line. Why? Because the USP is no longer there. The customer need has been fulfilled by Uber. then whatever gap was there was fulfilled by Ola. There is no gap, there is no USP. Everyone copied the version and they died. Amazon came, great option, great customer need. Flipkart copied in India, great customer option. Whoever went later, including Snapdeal, all lost because there was no customer need anymore because the first two has met it already. And that's the mistake we do. Somebody is doing very well, copy him or her, doesn't work. Is there customer need? Then only you should go to. So as an entrepreneur, I think startup, try to get the DPIIT sorted. Whatever little money they are giving, you get. Plus, if you have a DPIIT, when you go for a debt option, SIDBI will look at you positively. Banks will look at you positively. You will get more front-ending options. Many more options comes in. Many investor like mutual funds wants to invest in startups. Who is a startup? DPIIT registered hai ki nahi? They will ask you. Yes, I'm DPIIT registered. Very nice. So please do that. And please, for heaven's sake, you must get into business where there is a USP or customer need. Otherwise, look at other options.
Amazing, sir. So now coming to a little bit of twist part of it, like, if you're trying to raise fund through, through example equity, and so one of the core important things is the financial modeling. But when we try to make the financial models, the founders, like in 3 years unicorn, 5 years unicorn, or $1 billion company, so that kind of financial modeling happens. So this next question is in that context, so what role does the financial modeling play in startup finance, and how can founders create realistic projections to support their growth plans? So yeah, sir, your thoughts.
What is a financial model? Financial model is all about projecting. Normally, if you go to a finance guy, they will say 10 years projection, but I think 5 years is good enough. Projecting 5 years, two numbers, actually three numbers. Sorry, three numbers. One is sales, top line, projecting profit. That means sales minus cost is profit. Projecting CapEx, capital expenditure requirement, funding requirement. These are the only three things required. There are no fourth things. So project 5 year sales, 2024, 2025, 26, 27, 20, 29. Project 5 years profit, 24, 25, 26, 27, 29. And project 5 years, if you are a manufacturing company, you will need capital expenditure, you will need plant, machinery. If you are software, not a hardware manufacturer, software, then normally you don't need CapEx, normally not. That you need labor, and the labor would have already come in cost. Sales minus profit is cost. So cost of labor would have already come. So there is no more CapEx requirement. And this 5 years future profit is your business model. That's all. Of course, as a financial term, you would have heard the term of IRR, internal rate of return. You would have heard the term of ROI, return on investment. When you come with this sales and profit and your investment requirement, a professional person will convert that into an internal rate of return calculation, which obviously in a 60-minute talk is very difficult to explain. Internal rate of return is nothing else but what is the profit on investment, ROI, return on investment, how much money you have put in and how much profit you are getting. The return on investment is what they are calculating. Therefore, when you make this projection, see, you are not a financial guy, you are a technology guy. What you will know, but you know how much will I sell? You know how much profit will I make? If you give this information to a finance person or to a banking system or to an investor, he or she will pick holes into it. He'll say, Acha, no. How can you? First year you have sold 200 rupees. In the next year you are selling, you will say 1,000 rupees. You are growing 5 times. How will you grow 5 times in 2 years? They are going to challenge those numbers. That's where the problem lies. You will make your projection thinking first year I will sell 200, next year I will say 1,000, 5 times growth. Please understand, your investor is going to ask you, challenge you. How will you grow 5 times? Then third year, you said from 5,000, I will make it 10,000. You will grow 10 times. How will you grow 10 times? He will challenge you the basic assumptions. That's the issue. Once the assumptions are challenged and you are able to either answer them or water down the numbers, you say, oh, okay, not 200. 200 will not become 1,000, but 200 will become 500. Okay, then it looks good. 200 can become 500, 200, 1.5 times growth, it's okay. Next year, 500 will become 1,000, not 10,000. Oh, okay, good. Double, second year, good. That is possible. Watered down top line, your sale profit will also be watered down. Then they will calculate what is a return on investment. A return on investment more than 15%, 1 5, is a good number. The investment community is looking for a 20% return on investment. Technical term, there is a technical term called IRR, internal rate of return. You can, if you go to an Excel spreadsheet, you put your inflow and outflow for 5 years, you go in Excel spreadsheet equal to IRR, there is a formula, you put the formula for 5 years, and that Excel spreadsheet will generate for you the IRR. And if that IRR is more than 20%, and you can convince your investors that your top line and bottom line numbers are auditable, it is deliverable, you have an investor running after you.
Awesome, sir. So that gives a perspective on, like, what the ideal situation scenario can be. And I have two more questions. Just we got just 3 minutes left, but I'm going to take both the questions, and then maybe you could share your thoughts on that. So one is a very interesting question that comes with a lot of initial founders. So the question is, like, the question is around valuation. So when you're in initial stages, you have revenue or a limited traction, less traction. You might have patents, you might not have patents, and you're in this journey, and then, like, so there is no cash flow, or example, like as you said, no, there is no fund, an example funds there. So how do you, like, quantify or determine the approximate valuation? That's one question. And the second question is a little bit around how can you balance growth and financial sustainability, right? I mean, because these guys, founders, are like trying to do a lot of things. So how can we understand the numbers, the maths, everything, but then you're also trying to breathe. So you're trying to get air and you're trying to cook food underwater, maybe. So the question is, how can startups effectively balance the need for growth with imperative of maintaining financial stability? So the first is around valuation, early stages with limited traction. The second is around balancing growth and financial stability.
Let's take the valuation question first. If you are not making profits, then what's the value of your business? If the business has, let's say, normally after 2 years, you're looking for investors, you are looking for a valuation. Normally, if you're doing after 3 years, valuation is more concrete, and the first year and second year valuation is little nebulous. That's why the seed capital concept comes in. People are investing in you who has faith in you. But when you come to the series A, B, C, then you are already the proof of concept. You've already been around for some time. So now investors comes into picture who are looking for valuation. If you are making profit, I will give you both. Startups making profit, startups not making profit. Like, for instance, Nykaa. Nykaa was making profit. Of course, now it started making losses for last 2 years, 50, 60 crores. I think this year they have incurred about 25 crores of loss. But they made profit when they went into IPO. So that was one of the few startups who were making profits. When a company makes profits, you can assume your valuation to be, I'm giving a ballpark numbers because this is a very generic question, generic answer. If you are making profit, valuation could be 20 times sales. Ballpark number. Between 20, in India, between 15 and 25 times of sales. You can take as a 20 times sales. If your business is not making profits, but it has good future, proof of concept is good, 10 times sales is a ballpark value. Again, if your business is not making profit, then investors are not going to give you value because it's still not shown that you are making profit. Then perhaps 10 times sales value. So if your sales is 1 crore, you can expect a valuation of 10 crores. But if you're somehow showing profits on that 1 crore sales, then a 20 crore valuation is reasonable to expect. Ballpark guidelines, and most valuers, of course, they are going to value through IRR, cash flow, and all that nonsense they will do, which I just explained to you. But for your purposes, 10 to 20 times sales. Value, number of times of sales is a good way to go. How to balance growth, business? $1 million question. I don't think there is any science behind it. It will only be experience. But don't take debt up to your nose. Most important, there will be companies or banks who may be willing to give you a loan. Don't take so much loan that you are not able to service that interest and principal. Then that umbrella under your head will go away. If you are taking equity, doesn't matter. Even if you don't pay dividend, nobody can say. They can make a phone call, they can give you gali, but nothing else they can do. But if you are taking a debt, don't take debt which you may not be able to service in the short term. And servicing debt means repaying the principal and the interest, both together. You pay interest and not the principal, you are as much as bad situation than in anything as anybody else. So balancing growth as an entrepreneur, cash is the king. Keep the cash, very important. Cash is the king. Keep your working capital cycle low. I know it's a new term. Profitability, focus on profitability, bottom line and not top line, very important. If you have to get more bottom line at the cost of top line, please do that. Bottom line, bottom line, bottom line. And don't take too much of debt, which you will not be able to sustain. If you fail to meet the bank liability for 90 days, you are blacklisted. And chances of you as an entrepreneur getting back into reality will be almost impossible. You cannot be a technically blacklisted customer. That means you meet the debt.
Perfect. So I think you covered a lot of perspective in context of really starting with the definition and then moving on to you spoke about how one should DPIIT and then take or leverage SIDBI's funding and get the initial round of funding for the beginning part of it. And then you also spoke about equity and debt part of it. So yeah, perfect. So equity and debt ratio that you spoke about, if you are able to raise X amount of equity, then you could this is the debt you could raise. And interestingly, you spoke about do not take loans if you can't service the interest. So I think that was pretty interesting, how you should leverage or play between debt and equity. And again, you spoke about the earlier you're able to book profits, the better, and cash is the king. And you should focus also not just on the cash as the king, but at least the cycle time of the cash that's coming to you, because that will determine the speed at which it is. A couple of interesting numbers you spoke about is how you could position yourself as a very good startup in context to having your ROI as 20% or higher, or 15 to 20%, and that could position you in such a manner that you could be very good. Start investors would run behind you. That's the word that you used. So we've been able to cover quite a few things. I had a lot more questions with me, but I still can see a few questions here. But I think in context of time, I think we'll wind up. And thank you so much for your time and being there. And it was amazing to talk to you. We could not cover a lot of things, but we're able to get a gist of things. But we'll see that next time onwards, if you're able to have very focused on on this part of it, then it could be interesting. So thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you. Namaskar. Thank you.